let me just tell you about our last year, January of last year, 2009. You come back from Christmas, you're feeling a bit refreshed, you do the normal sort of activity. For us is a sort of a big push on training and development. We send out our training calendars, and in reality, within about 2 or 3 weeks, we've sold sort of somewhere between 800 and 1,000 courses, which is the next 6 months program. 3 weeks into January last year, or 3 weeks after the direct mail, we had 8 bookings. You know, the recruitment industry went through an incredibly tough period, last quarter of 2008, first quarter of 2009. And the reason why it went through such a tough time is this, really. This is basically the UK economy. And the contraction over this period is by far the deepest and longest recession we've had in living memory. So, something very, very different was happening in the economy. And if you look at that period, as I said, last quarter of 2008, first quarter of 2009, the economy shrank by over 4% in 6 months. Now, that's remarkable. It's remarkable, not good remarkable, but it's remarkable. And again, what did that do for recruitment? Well, if you look at that period, the whole contraction in the economy, about 6%, 6.2%. The economists are still arguing, because they always argue. Put 10 of them in a room, you'll get 10 different views. But what is interesting is the recruitment industry, contracted somewhere between 20 and 25%. So while the economy was going through that level of contraction, 6%, and it felt horrible, recruitment industry, partly because we're dealing with jobs, contracted by 20 to 25%. Now, let's just look forward. This is a CBI forecast. We use the CBI because we work very closely with them, because they run a trade association forum where all the trade associations in the UK get together. And their prediction is basically we're going to have anemic growth in 2010, somewhere between 1 and 1.25%. What that means is there won't be a new job created in the UK this year. We don't get any growth in employment until you get to GDP of about 2.5%. And we're not going to get to 2.5% until the middle of 2011 at the earliest. Okay, so whatever you do, you're going to be working against a really tough environment where people, even if demand comes back in the economy, aren't going to be creating a lot more jobs. And I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. Let's just have a quick look at the labour market and what's been going on. Because something quite different's happened in this recession. It's been quite different. And what it is that's different is employers are behaving differently. They're doing something that they haven't done in previous recessions. So, if you look at the last 2 major recessions, both the 80s and the 90s, unemployment got to 11.9 or 12.7. Over 3 and a bit million, 3.5 million in the 80s. Okay? So basically, big restructuring, loads of people losing their jobs, loads of big redundancy programs. Now, we've had the longest and deepest recession, but unemployment's only at 7.8%. And if you look at the middle of 2007, it was at 5.3. So even though we've gone through that level of contraction in the economy, basically unemployment's only gone up 2.5%. Now, every economist was predicting unemployment would go beyond 3 million, well beyond 3 million. British Chamber of Commerce predicted 3.4 million. It's actually at 2.5, and it's gone down in the last 3 months. So what's been going on? And I'll come to that in a moment. Let me just say a little bit about international comparisons, because this is interesting as well. So if you look at us in comparison to even North America, the most liberal, flexible labour market in the world, their unemployment went above 10%, just dropped below it. But if you look at Spain, for example, that figure's slightly out of doubt, it's 18.8%. Nearly 20% of people in Spain are unemployed. And even across the rest of Europe, it's 10% in most developed economies. Strangely, Italy's done quite well as well, which no one can quite work out, because we never can quite understand what's going on in the Italian economy. But the fundamental driver is basically employers have behaved differently in this recession. So what have they done? Well, what they've done is they've hung on to their talent. You know, I'm an HR professional. I've been in the industry 25 years. A lot of my friends are HR directors. And what they have learned this time is it's very expensive to hire people and find good people. Secondly, what they also say is actually there's not that many good people, great people on the labour market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find other ways to reduce my salary costs. I've got to reduce my cost base, but I'll have to do it in a different way than just laying people off. So what they've done is they've reduced overtime, got rid of bonuses, freezed pay, given people sabbaticals. And this isn't happening, you know, short-time working, for example. Historically, sort of thing you associate with factories. You know, PwC and KPMG both went to 4 days a week, professional service firms. Unheard of, unparalleled behaviour. You know, lots of businesses in the city, recruitment, marketing, media, giving people sabbaticals. Take 3 months off, come back. Take 6 months off and then come back. I really want you, you're great, but we haven't got enough work. So I've got to find ways of reducing my cost base without getting rid of my good people. So, what does that mean? Well, productivity in the UK is at the lowest it's been for 10 years. What this means is the spare capacity within many employers. So even when we get some demand back, they've got resource within their organisation to absorb the first part of it. So what we're not going to get, as we've got in previous recessions, it's bad news for you and for me, is we're not going to get one of those wonderful boom periods where all the employers, you know, demand comes back into the economy, give me some people, I want 10 of them, 20 of them, 50 of them. I don't think we're going to have that type of recovery. And as I said, job creation doesn't kick in until 2.5%. Now, what is changing, and one of the good news is, and there is some good news in this, is the fluidity's coming back into the labour market. Two fundamental things that drive our activity in recruitment. One is growth in the economy, people needing more people, okay, employment growth. Second is people moving. You know, I get another job, someone fills my job, someone then fills their job. That's the bit that's actually starting to come back, is there is fluidity returning to the labour market. However, it's quite clear it's only just come back, because what happens in a period of recession, you and me and other people, a couple of things. One is you save a bit more as a consumer. Secondly, you don't spend. And thirdly, you don't change job. Okay, so there's these wonderful people called economic behaviouralists who study. You know, when you hear on the news, people always say employment confidence, consumer confidence. Why confidence is so important is because that's what drives this stuff. And employer or consumer confidence, if people don't feel confident, they don't change job. And that's the bit that's starting to change. Two pieces of research that we do. First one, report on jobs. Been doing it since 1997. If you want to know what's happening in the labour market, first Wednesday of every month, go to the REC website. You don't have to subscribe to this. You can just go there and there'll be a story that gives you update by sector. It's basically now seen as the lead indicator of the labour market in the UK. So last time this was published, I was on Radio 4, Radio 5, Chris Evans Radio 2, Breakfast TV. It was in the Telegraph, the Financial Times, the Guardian. So as a brand, we're now in front of all your clients talking about the labour market, which is something that's really positive about the recruitment industry, because we're now respected as having a really good view on what's happening. So we tell the rest of the world what's likely to happen with unemployment, what's likely to happen with employment growth, what's likely to happen in terms of sectors where there's real activity and other areas where there isn't. The other piece of research that, again, I think you get every month is basically about an employer's perspective. Tell us what's going to happen, you're going to do in the next 3 months or the next year. How many temps, how many perms, and it gives us a lead indicator. So report on jobs gives us a view what's happened last month against the previous month. Jobs Outlook tells us what's happening in the future. So again, for you, this is an opportunity for you to get some real information to be able to talk to your clients.